President Abdel al-Sisi heads to the United Arab Emirates. President al-Sisi meets with the UAE President and ruler of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, in Abu Dhabi. President Abdel al-Sisi meets with the Minister of Justice, Councillor Omar Marwan, and is briefed on the developments in the Ministry of Justice. President Abdel al-Sisi reviews the activities and plans and projects of the Arab Organization for Industrialization in various military and civil areas. On his official Facebook page and on the occasion of the 93rd Saudi National Day, President Abdel al-Sisi extended his congratulations and sincere wishes to the custodian of the two holy shrines, Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman, wishing the Saudi people progress and prosperity.
لكل الناس في دايما حلم تحلم بيه، وانا كان حلمي على قدي ونفسي اعيش، ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه، ايدك في ايديا من الاول ما بتسيبنيش، يلا يلا نكمل سكه مشيناها، يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه، يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناه، احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه، خلاص تكه 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 على اخر السكه، لسه تكه كان ناس كتير شكه شكه شكه، وشوفوا رحنا لفين وخلاص فاضل تكه تكه على اخر السكه، لسه تكه كان ناس كتير شكه شكه شكه، وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه، لسه تكه خطوه جابت خطوه خطوه خطوه، وشوفوا رحنا لفين.
يلا مصريين همتكم، ده الحلم خلاص فاضل عليه تكة.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I am honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight over the course of this episode Dr. Nabil Abdel, the strategic planning consultant. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you very much for your good self and for your audience. Thank you.
Of course, the main topic for today was the main statements, or is the main statements made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and the representation for Egypt at the 78th round of the United Nations General Assembly. First of all, one of the main statements made by Foreign Minister Shoukry during his address before the 78th session was about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and that Egypt is willing to be continuing the negotiations between Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan to be reaching a legally binding agreement. How do you see the main topic itself being raised before the 78th round of the United Nations General Assembly, and the response, the possible response by the other states and countries watching those statements?
As we used to see, Egypt is always presenting the crucial cases for whatever related to Egypt in front of the world, for the international audience. I mean.
Yes.
And the worldwide countries leaders presenting such issue related to the Renaissance Dam for Ethiopia means that Egypt is not against Ethiopia. Egypt is with always the welfare of the African continents, and especially with the River Nile Basin partners. Also, Egypt is, as well as a few other countries, are experiencing scarcity in water. He has explored how scarcity we are suffering here in Egypt. It's almost 50% of our needs, and maybe less. He's expressing the interest in cooperating with Ethiopia, with any worldwide countries, and he's expressing the interest of, please try to help Egypt and Ethiopia. We would love to be together, would like to be cooperative, but there is a serious case here, and you should pay attention to. I expect from time to time a good response from worldwide countries, and this is actually what's happening by time.
Of course, we have seen a firm stance made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and Egypt in general at the 78th session or the 78th round for the United Nations General Assembly meetings. How do you see this stance? Because you mentioned that we are caring as well for the benefits and for the development of Ethiopia, for the development of Sudan, for the development of Egypt as well. How do you think this firm stance is being received by Ethiopia and by the other African and the other world countries as well? Because Foreign Minister Shoukry mentioned that this current situation could not be negatively affecting 100 million lives in Egypt, and we just would be standing aside and doing nothing.
Actually, this is the usual stance which Egypt always expresses, and which is Egypt always is stuck to. And I believe that Ethiopia as well will be maneuvering as we used to see every time and all the time. They are trying always to use the maneuver to maneuver for the prosperity from their point of view to the welfare of the people, which is not right, which is incorrect. Yes. But Egypt is always in front of the international world countries, is confirming that we are committed to our people. We are not going to have hunger. We are not going to stay watching our people die or our land die, our cultivation die, and this is always what Egypt used to be. By time, we are getting very good response from worldwide countries, month after month, and I think that will prove that Egypt is on the side of the welfare of the African continent and the welfare of the Ethiopia prosperous people. But still, we cannot do that most of the time and all the time. We cannot keep our people in hunger and support others. So Egypt is always clarifying. It's very clear. The situation of Egypt is always very clear. We are fighting for our. We are presenting our case, which is fair and serious. We are not against any other country, but still, you don't have to let Egyptian people with 100 million lives die.
Why can't we be reaching a legally binding agreement regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam? Because you mentioned that there are always maneuvers by Ethiopia, but there are ongoing talks and negotiations between Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Why do you think this round of talks would be fruitless as well?
From my point of view, because of 2 points, because of 2 main reasons. The first reason is the Ethiopian government itself. They are trying to make the best use of time. They are trying to maneuver all the time, and they are trying to make use of the politics and the worldwide events. If we remember from the day of the US President Donald Trump, we have reached an agreement, and all the Egyptian and Ethiopian government have been there to the States for signing the binding agreement as they have reached at that time. But all of a sudden, the Ethiopian government, the Ethiopian minister and governmental bodies and people who were there for signing, they have stopped and they said, no, we are not going to stop. They try always to make this. The second is the Ethiopian alliance, either from over the table or under the table, trying to be against, to support Ethiopia against Egypt, whom are already existed in the region.
One of the main topics addressed by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry as well yesterday on Saturday during his address to the UNGA was about Sudan, that the security and the stability of Sudan is of main concern for Egypt. How do you think we could be supporting the stability and the security of Sudan, especially with the regional role of Egypt?
This confirms once again that Egypt is in all international events in front of this very important UNAG, United Nations GA General Assembly, yes, which is very important this time, and very important because what we are talking right now is very much related to the subtitle of the assembly itself. Rebuilding trust for sustainable development, rebuilding trust. That's why they seized the opportunity for confirming that rebuilding trust, so help us to rebuild trust in the region itself. Sustainability developments doesn't mean that we let some few people die, either Egyptian people or Sudanese people. And Egypt is always taking care of the neighbors, of its neighbors, especially Sudan for the current situation over there.
There are also crises in Syria, Libya and Yemen, as well as Sudan, as we spoke about Sudan.
Especially Sudan on the borderline with Egypt.
Yes. How do you think Egypt could be gaining support for those Arab and African countries?
By always exploring the seriousness of the situation, yes, of the accuracy of the resources, and the fairness of the financial and the security. And Egypt Minister Sameh Shoukry has presented a very good statement stating that if one country is secured, that doesn't mean that if one country is insecure, that doesn't mean the other country will be secured. Yes. Security should be for all. And he presented his point. As we have seen
in 2011, one problem led to the other.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yes, Dr. Nabil, let me go to the first or the second report of the daily debate for tonight, which focuses on the meetings that took place on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meetings, the 78th round, and the participation of Egypt represented by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. A lot of meetings were held between Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and his counterparts from different regions and countries over the economic and the political situations all over the world. We will be having more details regarding those meetings on the sidelines of the UNGA in the upcoming report. So stay tuned.
On the sidelines of the 78th United Nations General Assembly in New York, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry met with his counterparts from Canada, Croatia, Ireland and Sierra Leone to discuss the situation in Sudan, bilateral relations and the global economic crisis. In a meeting with his Canadian counterpart, Melanie Joly, Sameh Shoukry discussed the crisis in Sudan, global economic challenges and food security. Shoukry briefed Joly on Egypt's efforts to resolve the crisis in Sudan, both through its contacts with international and regional partners and through the Sudanese neighboring countries mechanism. He also noted that Egypt has received around 310,000 Sudanese citizens to date. He also discussed the major global economic challenges, noting the need for all countries, including Canada, to contribute to efforts to address the negative economic consequences of the successive crises. Julie expressed her country's willingness to support Egyptian food security through international organizations. Meanwhile, in his meeting with his Croatian counterpart, Sameh Shukri discussed trade cooperation and global economic crisis. Shukri congratulated Radman on Croatia's recent accession to the Schengen and Eurozone. He also commended Croatia's support for Egypt in international forums, including on the issue of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The two ministers agreed to arrange a number of high-level visits between the two countries, including a visit by Shukri to Croatia to hold the next round of political consultations in Zagreb. Shukri praised the growth of trade between the two countries, which doubled to reach nearly $500 million in 2022, thanks to Egyptian exports of gas and ammonia, expressing his hope that it would increase further. Shukri also discussed Sudan trade, investment and security with his Sierra Leonean counterpart. Shukri congratulated him on his recent appointment and invited him to visit Egypt soon. Their meeting touched on African security and the need to promote African issues in multilateral institutions, especially in light of Sierra Leone's upcoming membership in the UN Security Council. Shukri also praised Sierra Leone's role as coordinator of the African Group of 10 on UN Security Council reform and expansion, in reaffirming the common African position on this issue. Sierra Leone's foreign minister briefed Shukri on his country's position on political and security situation in the Sahel and West Africa region, especially developments in Mali, Chad, Niger, and Burkina Faso. He said security in the region is fluid. He pointed out that the area is a breeding ground for terrorist groups, which has been exacerbated by food insecurity. He also reviewed efforts by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to resolve regional crises, stressing the importance of strengthening the grouping's ability to deal with accelerating challenges. Shukri reviewed developments in Sudan and Egypt's concerns about their negative effects on neighboring countries. He also explained the outcomes of his ministerial meeting of Sudan's neighboring countries in N'Djamena, Chad, which witnessed the formulation of an action plan that is being finalized for adoption.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I am honored to be having with me over the phone Ambassador Wafi Basim, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for being with us over the phone on the Daily Debate for tonight.
Hello and good evening.
Good evening to you too. Thank you very much once again. Of course, we have seen the statements made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri during his address to the 78th round of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. How would you see and highlight the main topics tackled during his statements?
Well, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt stressed many issues, whether these issues were the regional conflict, the difficulties that the peace process is facing now, and the dire situation of the Palestinian people facing all the conduct and the practices done by the Israeli state. He spoke also about the highlights of this 78th edition of the General Assembly, whether it is the part on the economic crisis, on the pandemic, on the wars and conflicts, and the role of the UN in maintaining and keeping peace and initiating peace, which is not satisfactory, as many observers have highlighted. Even the Secretary General of the United Nations himself said he spoke about the importance of reforming and reanimating the role of the organization of the United Nations organization about the Egypt stance as far as many important issues are concerned, and also the importance of extending a hand and creating a proper partnership on the economic side and on the financement for development, the issues of energy, as it was seen. I won't repeat what the minister himself said, but he highlighted the most important issues, shedding the light on the importance of regaining confidence in the multilateral system, as it is the only way out or the only shield that developing countries are able to use in front of all the challenges that peace, security, stability are facing, the world is facing now.
Yes, one of the main topics that was tackled during his address, the address of Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry before the UNGA, was the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And the current situation is that Egypt wants more negotiations, is willing to be going into more negotiations with Ethiopia and with Sudan to be finding or reaching a legally binding agreement for all of the states concerned. How did you see the statements made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and the firm stance itself by Egypt towards the issue?
Well, Egypt has repeatedly and through the declaration, statements, answers to many questions that were given to Egypt, these answers came through the head of state, His Excellency President al-Sisi, through our Minister of Foreign Affairs, in many speeches, and maybe the auditor would recall that the first person who put publicly the issue of the dam, the Ethiopian dam, was President al-Sisi himself in front of this particular General Assembly. Now, Minister Shoukry is reiterating the Egyptian firm commitment to fairness and justice as far as the repatriation of the water of the river is concerned. The sincere commitment of Egypt to the development of other countries, among themselves Ethiopia, but not to the detriment of the right of existence to the Egyptian people. You know very well, and all our leaders in Egypt have repeatedly stated that the Nile waters are a question of life. There is no other choice, especially in front of the challenges of a growing population, the needs of this population, the development of the country and its need of energy and agriculture and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, Minister Shoukry also has said a few days ago that Egypt was willing to conclude an agreement within a week if there was a political will on the part of the government of Ethiopia. Today also there was a tripartite meeting in Addis Ababa concerning also that Ethiopian dam, and it seems that it did not really achieve any progress. So it was very important that our ministers today reaffirmed the Egyptian position, the Egyptian readiness to cooperate with Sudan and with Ethiopia and all other riparian states of the River Nile, but not to the detriment of our own people and our own country.
Yes, development and prosperity for all. Ambassador Wafa Basim, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for being with us tonight over the phone on the Daily Debate. We will be heading to the other report of the episode for tonight, as Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry had called during his participation at the 78th round of the United Nations General Assembly meetings and session for firmer climate action during his participation in the Climate Ambition Summit on the sidelines of the 78th round of the UNGA. We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Foreign Minister and COP27 President Sameh Shoukry called for ambitious climate action at the UN Climate Ambition Summit in New York. In his speech, Shoukry said the summit is a reminder of the international community's commitment to taking bold and ambitious steps to save the planet for future generations. Shoukry discussed Egypt's vision for energy transition as a responsible member of the international community and president of COP27. This vision is reflected in several plans, including the 2050 Climate Strategy, the 2030 Sustainable Development Plan, the Nexus of Water, Food and Energy Program, and the third update of Egypt's nationally determined contributions. Other measures include producing 42% of Egypt's energy mix from renewable source by 2030 instead of 2035. This will result in a reduction in carbon emissions by more than 10 million tons, the production of an additional 10 gigawatts of renewable energy, and the gradual phase out of 5 gigawatts of fossil fuel-based energy production at an investment value of more than $15 billion. The foreign minister reviewed Egypt's efforts to transform the transport sector to be more sustainable, as well as the expansion of Suez Canal. Egypt is also working to become a regional energy hub, especially for green hydrogen, protect coastal areas, and enhance the resilience of the agriculture and water sectors. Other challenges facing international climate action, Shoukry noted that many nationally determined contributions depend on receiving adequate financing through grants and concessional financing, which has not been achieved to date. He pointed out that the costs of climate losses and damages have not been addressed. Shoukry stressed the need to adopt a creative approach to dealing with the international debt crisis through debt for climate swaps, as well as to consider the social and economic dimensions through a just transition to green economy.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate. Dr. Nabil Abdel, Moula, the strategic planning consultant. Thank you very much once again for being with us tonight.
My pleasure, of course.
We have seen in the past report the stances of Egypt, the decisions of Egypt, the vision of Egypt regarding climate change in general, and more specifically the Climate Ambition Summit that was held on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meetings, and the statements made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry during participating in it, which called for firmer action, stronger action in terms of eradicating the negative repercussions of the climate change. How do you think this could be done with the help and support of Egypt, especially that Egypt was heading the COP27, and we will be handing over the main conference, the COP28, to the United Arab Emirates?
Since COP27, actually, Egypt has been trying to deliver a very firm message to the world that we need the whole world to fulfill his commitments.
Yes.
We need to have, you need to be fair with the worldwide countries, especially in the underdeveloped countries. Egypt is always seeking to reach to to the advanced world to support by through finance, through projects, using the infrastructure, using the roads, using the people of the underdeveloped countries.
Yes.
Egypt is always trying to do so. Sometimes few countries are responding, and most of the time they are not responding. So Egypt is always, what Egypt can do is, Egypt is always trying to deliver the message that you should be fair, you should be supporting the underdeveloped countries, you should fulfill your commitments to the climate, because otherwise it will be a disaster for the world, not only for Egypt and for African countries.
How do you think Egypt has responded to the recommendations regarding the negative impacts of climate change, especially during the COP27? The COP27 was held here in Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh in November of last year, so maybe 10 or 11 months. How did you see things changing in terms of heading to a greener economy, to a better environmental procedure to be going on here in the country for the future? Do you think things have changed before the COP27 and after it, or not, in Egypt?
Slight change, slight changes. But in Egypt, yes, Egypt is moving forward to the green energy. Egypt is moving strongly towards what they have, to what their obligations, to what Egypt has said that they will do it. Egypt is trying always actually to, in this regard, to be a role model for the countries to what they should be. Yes, Egypt is trying always to deliver the message. We are here. We are trying to do our part. Please do your part. What has happened in Egypt and afterward it is a slight change, because not because any fault or problems here, but because the commitment of the worldwide countries, which has said that they will finance, they will deliver, they will train, they will change. Very slight change has happened from worldwide, but here in Egypt, lots of change has happened, yes.
How can we be having,
especially with the green energy?
Yes, the green energy, the green economy, because we need this balance as well. We need a better economy here in the country, but we need to be preserving the environment for the longer run, or on the longer run, for evading the negative impacts of climate change. Do you think we can do that, the green economy?
We can do that actually, yes, we can do that, but we cannot do that alone, because this requires a huge fund.
It's not just about one country.
It's, if you're talking about one country, on the resources of one country, it's unfair to compare this. But yes, we can do it, but we can do it with the support of the rich countries, of the world countries. We need other people, other countries to stick to their promises that they will finance, they will give, they will provide, they will support. Otherwise, one country, it will be unfair to say anything else.
One important topic that was tackled during the statements made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, or during addressing the UNGA, was Palestine and stopping the violence and the Israeli practices in Palestine. How do you think Egypt could be playing a role, as we are always doing, especially in the Gaza Strip and the violence and the atrocities that were made by Israel during the clashes taking place in Gaza? How do you think Egypt on the international level could be intervening?
Actually, Egypt has been doing and is still doing that. In every international or local occasion, Egypt expressed the importance of the two-state solution for the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict. In the meantime, Egypt is always trying to deliver the perfect message to the world for whatever wrong is happening in such territory. And Egypt is always supporting and helping by showing off what's wrong and what's right, how the people, how the countries, how the world can support the Palestinian regarding the political issues, regarding the financial issues, regarding the massacre which is happening from time to time. Egypt is always on the side of the Palestinians.
And regarding Africa, of course, one of the main statements made by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry was that we need to be supporting and combating terrorism in Africa, especially after the crises that we have seen in Mali, in Niger, in Sudan in the past few months. What can be done to be combating terrorism and regaining security and stability for Africa in general?
Number one, or actually, the security and stability is not only for Africa. Stability
Yes.
and security is for the worldwide countries, and this is what one of the crucial messages which Egypt and Minister Shoukry has expressed in his speeches and his statement. Number two, eliminating or minimizing such a terrorism, that means such countries must stop supporting the terrorists in a way or another.
Yes.
They don't have to finance, they don't have to acquire and let them live on their lands without responsibilities. Terrorism is terrorism, either local or international, and whatever and whenever and as long as there are terrorism in any country, that doesn't mean that any other country is safe.
Yes.
This is exactly the message which Minister...
Terrorists, they move from one country to the other.
Definitely, yes. This is the message exactly which Minister Shoukry has expressed.
Yes. Regarding the economy, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry spoke about the possibility of reforming the global financial system. How can we be doing that, especially after the COVID-19 maybe wrecking the whole economic plan for the globe over the past 4 years, for example, and then shortly afterwards the Ukrainian-Russian conflict?
What has been mentioned actually during the UNGA, Egypt has expressed and has presented the capabilities of Egypt from infrastructure, from roads, from resources, available resources, for developing the Egyptian economy, and also they have declared how would African countries and how would the world with the African countries for integrating their resources together. So integration, this is the key word for the global economy and for the Egyptian economy. Whenever there is fund and other countries have resources and that some other country have financial resources, some third countries or parts have skills and so on. So integration would be the key word for the prospects of the worldwide, especially in Africa and then Egypt.
Yes, Egypt has called for helping and supporting the developing economies by, of course, the richer nations and the more developed countries and economies. How do you think this link could be going on in the future? How can they be even manufactured and done for the future, the link between the richer countries and the developing economies? And of course, there could be a global financial crisis in terms of debt for the developing economies if nothing happens.
They have expressed, Egypt has expressed actually and presented a clear message. We have debts, we have problems, African continent have problems, and Egypt may be having problems.
Yes.
So please exchange the debts with real projects which would be reflected on the economy of all such countries, economy of green energy, economy of agriculture, economy of health, whatever the type of economy is. This is exactly the message which has been delivered by Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry during the UNGA.
Yes, the Minister of International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat, also participated in several meetings on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly 78th round or session regarding sustainable development goals. How do you think we are moving on with this agenda here in Egypt? Because we have the 2030 agenda for the country, we have for Africa the 2063 agenda regarding sustainable development goals. How do you think we could be reaching our goals by 2030 and maybe before that?
In Egypt here, we're working on that. We're trying to achieve and to reach the sustainable development by building the right infrastructure, whatever the infrastructure mean and related to technology and relating to finance and relating to local resources and so on. This is exactly what Egypt is working on here. But Egypt alone is one country.
Yes.
That's why Egypt delivered a clear messages during such assembly, stating that we are here, Africa is here, we need your cooperation, and based on the current situation in worldwide countries, in different regions, in different territories, in different areas, we all need each other. So please try to help. We have already started and we are moving. We are moving, but we may be moving faster in case you help us. And the prosperity of one country lead to prosperity of other countries if they have cooperated and integrated with each other. This is the message which was very clear by Egypt and the Assembly.
Yes, Dr. Nabil Abdel, the strategic planning consultant. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Their pleasure is mine. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching and goodbye.